That, appropriately, is Behind Bars by Slick Rick, the rapper. Now, the reason we're playing that is you can guarantee there'll be howls of protests over new plans to hand model prisoners the keys to their own cells so they can lock themselves in to enjoy a bit of privacy. Well-behaved inmates will also be rewarded by being allowed to cook their own meals, take showers whenever they want, receive higher rates of pay, including special cash bonuses. Where's the punishment in that, you might inquire? But who could sensibly argue that a change in policy is required? Last year, assaults in jails reached a record 34,000, a figure that included 10,000 attacks on wardens. And under the current rigid system of punishment rather than encouragement in some penitentiaries, drug abuse is said to be out of control. Other proposed reforms include more out-of-cell time, extra gym sessions, and additional family visits in return for attendance at rehabilitation courses. Joining us now is a former prisoner and prison reform campaigner, Cody Lachey. Hello, Cody.
How you doing, Matthew? You okay?
It's Kevin here.
Oh, sorry, mate. I apologise, mate. I apologise.
No worries. What do you think about these plans? Obviously, they're geared towards encouragement, rewards for good behaviour, as opposed to a kind of strict punishment regime. Where do you stand on this?
Mate, I don't buy into it because, I last left prison 2 years ago. Project myself differently, reform myself. Prison didn't help me do that. Now, the thing is, when I was in prison the last time, I was a cleaner. Now, it was known that cleaners had keys to their own cells. So when we swapped wings, we said to the officers, well, where are our keys for our new cells? We want to lock our own doors, make sure our stuff's secure. And they said, well, whoever's had them has either lost them or taken them or whatever. And we said, well, we want the keys for our cells. And they said, well, you can't, it's too expensive. So straight off the bat, I don't buy into it. You can't normalise a prison environment. They need to cut the prison population in by at least a third. All these silly things, mate. You've got people in government, in the Ministry of Justice, they're residing over people they can't relate to, and that's part of the problem. And giving prisoners keys to their own cells is not going to reduce violence. It's not going to reduce drug taking. More time out of your cell, I don't buy into it, because depending on what category prison you're in, you can run a relaxed regime or a very harsh regime. The facts are, mate, the people in charge of the prisons haven't got a clue. Academic qualifications doesn't put you in a position to reside over people that you can't relate to.
Sorry, Cody, can I just ask, one of the other areas that the politicians keep banging on about is short sentences. And there's a sort of move now to sort of scrap any sentence below 6 months, or certainly a prejudice against jailing people for less than 6 months. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know people that have been in for a week or two, and they were so shocked and alarmed by their experience in prison. I don't think they'll ever reoffend again, but they said once you stay over a couple of months, you get into the routine and it becomes a bit easier. So maybe very short sentences still have a part to play.
I disagree. And the reason that I disagree as someone that served in prison is simply because when you go to prison on a short sentence, you are not given any rehabilitation plan. So you are just left to rot behind your door. And I've seen people go to prison on short sentences, and due to, obviously, there's no income or something, or they can't pay the bills, whether that be criminality or otherwise, they lose their accommodation. Yeah. They then spiral into depression. They start taking drugs, and they didn't take drugs on the outside, so they've been introduced to drugs in prison. And like I say, and that where you've got contraband, you incur debt. Where you've got debt, you've got fear, intimidation, bullying, and violence. They're actually counterproductive, short sentences, and that's why I don't buy into them. I mean, like I say, things do need to change from top to bottom within the criminal justice system, or as I call it, the criminal abuse system. That, like I say, violence is one thing and stuff like that. The simple fact is they need to recruit more officers, and obviously cut IPP prisoners free and stuff like that.
Cody, on that point, you see, one of the things I hear a lot from prison guards and former prison guards is that recruiting prison officers isn't the be-all and end-all. You've got to have experienced prison officers. That what we've done is let quality guards go, experienced guards go, because they were more expensive. And then when we started having walkouts from prison guards, the government responded and they're boasting about it all the time, we've hired 4,000, I think more than 4,000 new prison guards. But the suspicion is is that they're fresh, they're green, and they don't know their way around. They're cheap.
I agree. I remember doing an interview alongside the Prison Officers Association National Chair, Mark Fairhurst, and he actually stated they've lost over 7,000 experienced officers, and they've replaced them with like just short of 4,000 fresh-faced, no life experienced kids that are coming off the streets that have been working at fast food chains, putting them into a prison with 9 weeks training, and they're open to manipulation. Prisoners are masters of manipulation. And then you see in sexual relationships between prison guards and prisoners. That then obviously compromises security. Drugs started to come into the prison via every means, including prison officers. And like I say, it's turning into prisons are failing prisoners, prison officers, taxpayers, and prisoners' families across the board. And sadly, it's not going to change. And they can throw all these things. I mean, look, if Boris Johnson becomes Prime Minister...
he could end up in prison. I'm just getting ahead of myself there.
Yeah. I love it. But yeah, he's actually said himself, though, the Justice Secretary, David Gore, has actually said he will step down from his position if Boris is elected. So
I think he'll get sacked.
Well, there you go, mate. Like I say, the country's run by idiots, in my opinion, and
well,
they're no better than the prisoners that we're housing. Simple as that.
No argument there, Cody. But are you saying then that if there's a reward system to encourage prisoners to behave well, that they will just abuse that?
No, because it will work for certain prisoners, but then you've got the other prisoners that will use it. Like I say, for me, and it sounds bad, but you've got to incentivize. Currently, if you are what they call an enhanced prisoner, which means you're a well-behaved prisoner, a model prisoner for 3 months, you've stayed out of trouble, 3 months and onwards, you get an extra visit a month. You can buy clothes on the canteen, which are like in a catalogue, which are overpriced. You can buy a PlayStation 2 console, which you use with your television, which again, you've got to earn the right to have a television. You pay for that TV. So the current incentives that are in place for prisoners to behave are not that good. And anything that's going to, like a carrot and stick approach, I support fully, because we do need to sort it out. Because like I say, the way that prisoners are treated in the system and the current system and the current climate of prisons, it's not working. And it's what happens from that is you've got reoffending rates are costing the taxpayer £15 billion a year. And with fewer police on the streets, those on the right side of the tracks, trust me, they want prison to work. I want prison to work for society, for law-abiding people, for prisoners that are going to leave prison. But sadly, the government don't listen to people like me.
Very quick word. How do you think Tommy Robinson's going to be getting along inside?
Tommy Robinson, he's been put in HMP Belmarsh, which, like I say, it's a notorious maximum security facility in London. From what I saw on his social media, apparently he's going to assault somebody or do something to get put in segregation, which means he will be housed in a cell in the segregation unit where he'll get out for an hour a day. He's safer in segregation because there's a lot of, amongst other prisoners, you do have extremists in prisons, and obviously the Muslim prison population. He is a target. I believe that the state are trying to kill him by sending him back to prison. But
before you get to that, of course, you have to accept that Tommy broke the law knowingly, and he's done it before, so we'll leave it there. Cody, lovely talking to you as per.